Ever wonder why you feel sluggish after that quick drive-through meal? I spent years battling mysterious health issues until I discovered a surprising connection to what was filling my shopping cart. Join me as I reveal what really happens inside your body when processed foods become your daily fuel. Have you ever looked at your grocery receipt and realized that 80% of what you just bought didn't actually come from nature, but from a factory? I certainly didn't think about it much until my body forced me to pay attention. 3 years ago, I was the picture of processed food convenience. Breakfast? A microwave sandwich and coffee with flavored creamer. Lunch? Usually something I could heat up in 2 minutes between Zoom calls. Dinner? Whatever required the least effort after an exhausting day. I wasn't eating junk food. Exactly. I bought things labeled natural and healthy at the grocery store. But my pantry was filled with boxes, bags, and containers of food designed to last for months. The wake-up call came gradually. First, it was the afternoon energy crashes that no amount of coffee could fix. Then persistent digestive issues that doctors couldn't quite diagnose. My skin looked dull. Sleep became elusive. And despite not changing my routine, I somehow gained 15 pounds. Something wasn't right, but I couldn't figure out what. It wasn't until a nutritionist friend visited and gently pointed out that almost nothing in my kitchen required refrigeration that I began connecting the dots. What followed was a deep dive into understanding processed foods and their effects on the body, not just from research papers, but from my own lived experience as I gradually transformed my diet. What I discovered was both alarming and empowering. Processed foods aren't just less nutritious. They actively work against our body's natural systems in surprising ways. Let's start with understanding what processed actually means. Not all food processing is bad. Cooking, fermenting, and preserving are ancient techniques that can make food safer and more nutritious. The problem lies with ultra-processed foods, which contain ingredients you wouldn't find in a home kitchen, and are designed primarily for convenience and shelf stability rather than nutritional value. These products typically contain refined carbohydrates, high amount of added sugars, unhealthy fats, and a long list of additives, including preservatives, artificial flavors, colors, and texturizers. Think breakfast cereals, packaged snacks, ready-made meals, soft drinks, and even many products marketed as health foods. The impact on blood sugar is immediate and profound. When I would eat my previous normal breakfast of instant oatmeal with flavored creamer and coffee, my blood sugar would spike dramatically, then crash within hours. This roller coaster not only explained my afternoon fatigue, but also contributed to increased hunger and cravings. Refined carbohydrates and processed foods digest quickly, causing rapid glucose spikes followed by insulin surges that eventually lead to fat storage and potential insulin resistance. But the effects go far beyond energy levels. The preservatives and emulsifiers common in processed foods disrupt our gut microbiome. The trillions of bacteria that influence everything from digestion to immune function and even mood. Research has shown that these additives can damage the protective mucus lining of the intestines, potentially contributing to increased intestinal permeability, sometimes called leaky gut, which allows substances that should remain in the digestive tract to enter the bloodstream. This explains why my digestive issues improved dramatically when I began eliminating ultra-processed foods. Within weeks, the bloating and discomfort I had accepted as normal disappeared entirely. My skin cleared up too, something I hadn't expected but made sense given the gut-skin connection researchers have been uncovering. Perhaps most disturbing is how processed foods affect our brain chemistry. Many ultra-processed products are specifically engineered to hit what food scientists call the bliss point, the perfect combination of salt, sugar, and fat that maximizes pleasure without overwhelming the palate. This triggers dopamine release in the brain's reward centers in ways similar to addictive substances. I experienced this firsthand when trying to reduce my processed food intake. The cravings were intense and specific, not just for something sweet, but for particular brands and products. That's because our brains become conditioned to the exact flavor profiles these foods provide. Studies show that this can lead to a cycle of overconsumption similar to other addictive behaviors. Inflammation is another major concern. The combination of refined carbohydrates, unhealthy fats, particularly industrial seed oils high in omega-6 fatty acids, and food additives creates a perfect storm for chronic low-grade inflammation throughout the body. This type of inflammation is now linked to virtually every chronic disease, from heart disease and diabetes to depression and dementia. When I had blood work done before and after changing my diet, my inflammation markers dropped significantly without any other lifestyle changes. My doctor was surprised by the improvement and asked what medications I was taking. None, I told her. I just stopped eating from packages. Beyond the physiological effects, there's also the nutritional displacement that occurs with processed foods. Every ultra-processed item we consume represents a missed opportunity to nourish our bodies with whole foods containing protective phytonutrients, fiber, and micronutrients that work synergistically in ways we're still discovering. The marketing of these products compounds the problem. Claims like natural, made with real fruit, or good source of protein create a health halo effect that can blind us to the overall nutritional profile. I was shocked to discover that many foods I thought were healthy choices were actually sophisticated combinations of refined ingredients with minimal nutritional value. Let me be clear. This isn't about food shaming or promoting restrictive eating habits. It's about understanding what we're actually consuming and how it affects our bodies. Perfect eating doesn't exist, and occasional processed foods won't destroy your health. The problem comes from making them dietary staples, as I once did. The good news is that our bodies are remarkably resilient. When I gradually replaced processed food with whole alternatives, fresh vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, quality proteins, and healthy fats, the improvements were dramatic and sustainable. Energy levels stabilized, weight normalized without counting calories, digestive issues resolved, and my mental clarity improved significantly. The transition wasn't easy. Convenience is powerful, and processed foods are specifically designed to be irresistible. I started small, focusing first on breakfast, then gradually expanding to other meals. I discovered that meal preparation doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Simple whole foods often taste better with minimal intervention. Perhaps the most surprising benefit was rediscovering actual hunger and fullness cues. When eating mostly processed foods, I never felt truly satisfied despite consuming plenty of calories. Once my diet shifted, I found myself naturally eating appropriate amounts without effort. My relationship with food transformed from one based on convenience and emotional eating to nourishment and genuine enjoyment. Cost is often cited as a barrier to whole food diets, but I found that while some items, particularly quality animal products, were more expensive, eliminating packaged snacks and convenience foods actually balanced the budget. Plus, the long-term healthcare costs of diet-related chronic conditions far outweigh any immediate savings from cheap processed foods. The food industry has created products that hijack our natural preferences for calorie-dense foods, preferences that evolved during times of scarcity, but now work against us in an environment of abundance. Understanding this helps remove the blame and shame often associated with struggling to eat healthily in today's food environment. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the prospect of changing your diet, remember that small, consistent changes compound over time. Start by reading ingredient lists, not just nutrition facts. Choose foods with fewer ingredients that you recognize. Gradually replace ultra-processed staples with whole food alternatives. Your taste buds will adapt, often more quickly than you might expect. Processed food industry spends billions on research and marketing to keep us consuming their products. We owe it to ourselves to become equally sophisticated in understanding how these foods affect our bodies and minds. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it's the power to reclaim our health from a food system that prioritizes profit over well-being. My journey away from processed foods wasn't about achieving perfect eating habits, but about making informed choices that support long-term health. 3 years later, the improvements have been sustainable and profound. I still enjoy treats occasionally, but they're now actual treats rather than daily staples, and my body lets me know when I've had enough. Health isn't just the absence of disease. It's having energy to pursue what matters, mental clarity to solve problems, emotional resilience to handle life's challenges, and the physical capacity to enjoy meaningful experiences. All of these are profoundly influenced by what we eat day after day, year after year. If you've been experiencing unexplained health issues, consider taking a closer look at how processed foods might be affecting you. Your body might be trying to tell you something important, just as mine was. Click subscribe if you like more evidence-based nutrition information without the hype or extremism. Comment below if you've noticed connections between processed foods and how you feel. I'd love to hear about your experiences.